Here are the top stories for today, July 17, 2020. The Philippines allows the entry of foreigners with long-term visas starting August. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana offers to have AFP augment hospital treating COVID-19 patients. Malacanang tells several U.S. lawmakers not to interfere with the country's matters amid the passage of the anti-terror law. And DOH says media workers may be tested for COVID-19 every 3 months. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Foreign nationals with long-term visas in the country are now allowed to enter the Philippines beginning August 1. The government, however, set conditions prior to the entry of these foreigners. According to presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, no new entry visa shall be accepted. This means foreigners who want to enter the country must have valid and existing visas. Foreign nationals are subject to the maximum capacity of inbound passengers at the port and date of entry, as returning overseas Filipinos will be given priority. They must also secure a pre-booked accredited quarantine facility and a pre-booked COVID-19 testing provider. Around 23,000 Filipino workers have been displaced in the Gulf state due to the economic impact of coronavirus disease. In a Laging Handa briefing, DFA Chargé d'Affaires Charlson Hermosura said these OFWs have been displaced due to loss of jobs or due to no work, no pay arrangement.
Ongoing po ang evaluation po ng DOLE ACAP applications. And since the start of the pandemic, through PhilCom leaders and volunteers, nagbigay po ang embahada ng 31,000 food packs sa mga kababayan po natin sa Kuwait.
More than 5,000 of them have already received cash assistance under DOLE's Abot Kamay and Pagtulong program. The Department of Health endorses its complaint against Senator Coco Pimentel to the Philippine National Police and the National Bureau of Investigation. Pimentel was charged for alleged breach of quarantine protocols. The complaint stemmed from an incident in March. According to the Makati Medical Center, Pimentel breached his infection and containment protocols when he went to the hospital with his wife who was about to give birth. This after Pimentel exhibited symptoms and was tested for the coronavirus disease. The hospital said Pimentel's visit unduly exposed healthcare workers to possible infection. Lawyer and former University of Makati Dean Rico Quicho, who sued Pimentel, said the complaint had been formally endorsed by the DOH to the PNP and the NBI. This was also confirmed by Health Undersecretary Rosario Vergere. DepEd Undersecretary Jesus Mateo said teachers who would be affected by the reported closure of some private schools would work as tutors. This is the remedy that they see amid the closure of some 400 private schools due to lack of enrollees. Mateo said the department is now in talks with local governments regarding the hiring of unemployed teachers as tutors. He said among the questions in the survey conducted by DepEd on parents is on whether students will have adult supervision during the conduct of the distance learning. Mateo said if there will be no adult who can supervise the students, these private school teachers would come in. Based on DepEd data, 200 to 250,000 students transferred to public schools from private schools. Education Secretary Leonor Biones earlier said they are now considering to have limited face-to-face classes in areas with low risk of COVID-19 infection. The Armed Forces of the Philippines says it can activate field hospitals and deploy medical units to augment public and private hospitals for COVID-19 patients. This as COVID-19 cases in the country have reached more than 60,000 cases. The AFP says it still has already deployed 405 medical personnel in various emergency quarantine facilities nationwide, including the Ninoy Aquino Stadium, World Trade Center, and Rizal Memorial Coliseum in Metro Manila. Over 1,500 doctors, nurses, and military medical auxiliary are also deployed in military treatment facilities in the country. Some 34 parents and guardians of minors were arrested by the city government of Manila as it cracked down on those violating the city ordinance. Meanwhile, a hospital in CALOOCAN is closed for a week after its staff tests positive for COVID-19. More on these and other news around the metro from Chris Mundo.
Manila Mayor Isko Moreno Domagoso has warned parents of minors that he would have them arrested if they allow their minor children to go out in public during curfew hours. Domagoso said they have already put some parents in jail and rescued some 40 minors. Minors were rescued for disobeying the IATF guideline, which says that below 21 years old are not allowed outside their residence for safety purposes. Meanwhile, parents or guardians will be charged with the violation of City Ordinance No. 8243 or Anti-Child Endangerment Act and RA 76-10 and RA 11332 or the mandatory reporting of notifiable disease law. Meanwhile, the lockdown of Muntinlupa Regional Trial Court got extended after another staff got infected with the COVID-19 virus. In a Twitter post, the Supreme Court says Muntinlupa City RTC Branch 205 extends physical closure until July 23, 2020. The court may still be contacted through office hotline and judiciary accounts. In other news, the Caloocan City Medical Center South will be closed for a week after some of its staff tested positive for COVID-19. In a Facebook post, Mayor Oscar Malapitan said the nurses and medical technologists who got infected with COVID-19 are already placed in quarantine. They have also started their contact tracing to stop the spread of the virus. The hospital will be closed beginning 12 noon of July 17 until 12 noon of July 23 for decontamination. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Mundo.
Still to come, Malacanang tells several U.S. lawmakers not to interfere with the country matters amid the passage of the anti-terror law. The Cebu city government issues guidelines for the reopening of businesses while under modified enhanced community quarantine. More on this when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Sa matinding laban natin sa Coronavirus Disease 2019, sugpuin din natin ang pagkalat ng fake news. Huwag magbahagi ng impormasyon na hindi tiyak ang pinagmulan. I-check mabuti ang source ng balita. Kumuha lamang ng impormasyon mula sa mga official channel ng Department of Health. Huwag magpadala sa maling balita, basta't sama-sama at laging handa. Kaya natin to. Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito. Ano ang tamang pagsusuot ng surgical mask? Una, hawakan ang mask sa strap at siguruhing natatakpan nito ang inyong bibig at ilong. Tandaan, ang may kulay na bahagi ng mask ang dapat nasa labas. Ito lamang ang tamang paraan ng pagsuot nito. Ihulma ang nose piece o maliit na metallic strip ayon sa hugis ng inyong ilong. Iwasan ang paghawak sa inyong ilong at bibig. Kung marumi na ang mask, hubarin ito gamit ang strap at itapon ito sa isang basurahan. Siguruhin ang maayos na paghuhugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ang surgical mask ay dapat gamitin ng mga pasyenteng may sakit sa baga o mga taong mayroong ubo, sipon at lagnat, mga nag-aalaga sa mga may sakit, at mga healthcare at frontline workers. Maaari ring magsuot nito kung kayo ay pupunta sa matataong lugar. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa. Kaya natin to. Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. Malacanang urged U.S. lawmakers not to interfere with the country's affairs, saying they are no longer the country's colonial masters. This after at least 45 U.S. lawmakers asked the national government to repeal the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said there is no need for any interference because the country has a working judicial system.
Bagamat nung sinakop po tayo, yan po ang pinakamadugong bakbakan na nakita ng buong daigdig kung saan ang mga Amerikano talaga naman pong linabag ang tinatawag na batas na umiiral pag meron pong labanan. Pinatay po nila lahat ng nakikita nilang gumagalaw, lalong-lalo na sa mga lugar ng SAMAR. Huwag na po kayo maghimasok, hindi na po namin kayo colonial masters, independyenteng bansa na po kami. Sa Korte Suprema na po natin yan, hayaan po nating desisyonan ng Korte Suprema.
Malacanang said it is up to the National Telecommunications Commission to decide on the proposal to use ABS-CBN's TV and radio frequencies to ensure effective distance learning amid the pandemic. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said ABS-CBN's former frequencies could now be awarded by the NTC. He said the palace would let the NTC exercise its independence and make a decision on the embattled network's former television and radio frequencies. House Deputy Speaker Luis Raymond Villafuerte on Tuesday filed House Resolution 1044 proposing the government's temporary use of ABS-CBN's unused frequencies to deliver the alternative distance learning modes. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque earlier assured that retrenched employees of ABS-CBN will receive assistance via DOLE's one-stop shop.
Pagan ko na po si Secretary Bello, magkakaroon po siya ng one-stop shop center para po sa NCR at para po sa ABS-CBN para makapag-apply dun po ang mga mariretrench na empleyado ng ABS-CBN.
Cebu City prepares to reopen its economy as the city stays under modified enhanced community quarantine. More on this and other news from the provinces from Marita Moahe.
In adherence to the decision of President Rodrigo Duterte placing the city under modified enhanced community quarantine, Mayor Edgardo Labelle on Thursday issued guidelines to be followed by business establishments that are allowed to open in full operational capacity. Labelle allowed certain industries and sectors to operate in full operational capacity provided they comply with the minimum health standards and safety protocols at all times. Malls and shopping centers are also now allowed to open in limited operational capacity. While the city is still in strict quarantine classification, Labelle is still not keen on easing public transportation restrictions. Meanwhile, a team from the Department of Health arrived in Agusan del Sur on Wednesday to inspect the ongoing construction of a molecular diagnostic laboratory for COVID-19. The proposed site is at the Provincial Health Office compound in Prosperidad Town. The laboratory has a total budget of 17 million pesos and can process specimens using the reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction machine. Construction began last week and is expected to be completed this October. In ORMOC City, strict travel restrictions have been extended until July 31 as the city's fight against COVID-19 continues. Non-residents of ORMOC from areas with known local or community transmission of coronavirus who work or have a business in the city are not allowed to enter the border. Residents who work or have an essential business in areas without known local transmission must present a government-issued ID showing a home address in ORMOC or latest barangay certification, a QR code from the SafeORMOC.today website, and a health pass from the City Health Office which is only valid for 7 days. Other persons allowed entry and exit in the city must also secure a QR code, a health certificate from the place of origin, and proof of identity. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Marita Moahe.
PNP Chief Archie Gamboa has alerted the Eastern Visayas police units regarding a possible region-wide manhunt operation against a suspect in the shooting of Tagapulan Samar Mayor Vicente Limpiado Jr. Reports from Camp Crame indicated that Limpiado was about to leave his farm in Sugod village on Thursday morning when his assailant shot him using an unknown firearm. Limpiado sustained wounds on his back and was rushed to the rural health unit before being taken to a hospital in Tacloban City. The PNP chief also ordered Police Regional Office 8 Director Bernabe Balba to focus on the shooting incident and arrest the suspect as soon as possible. Police are still investigating the motive of the attack. In our business news, the Philippines continues to defy trends after Moody's Investor Service on Thursday affirmed its Baa2 rating with stable outlook on the country. Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Governor Benjamin Diokno said this latest decision is a welcome development since the latter has downgraded the credit rating of 18 sovereigns and revised to negative the ratings outlook of 27 others as of last June. The Philippines also registered other milestones after S&P Global Ratings affirmed its BBB Plus rating with a stable outlook on the Philippines last May 30. Fitch Ratings on May 7 affirmed its BBB rating on the Philippines despite changing the outlook from positive to stable on the account of the economic impact of COVID-19. Last June 11, the Japan Credit Rating Agency upgraded its ratings on the Philippines from BBB Plus to A- with a stable outlook. Diokno said the milestones support the BSP's views that the pandemic hit the Philippines from a position of strength. While the economy will contract this year, its prospects for a strong rebound in the coming years are bright. Up next, the DOH says media workers may be tested for COVID-19 every 3 months. And Blackwater is slapped with a 100,000 peso fine for violating quarantine rules. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Pangalagaan ng sarili laban sa Coronavirus Disease 2019. Hanggat maaari, umiwas sa mataong lugar. Iwasang hawakan ang ilong at bibig, maging malinis sa katawan at ugaliin ang wastong paghuhugas ng kamay. Takpan ang ilong at bibig kung uubo o babahing. Umiwas sa mga taong nagpapakita ng sintomas ng coronavirus disease gaya ng lagnat, ubo at sipon. Magsuot ng face mask kung kinakailangan. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa. Kaya natin to. Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito. Tandaan ang tamang paraan ng paghuhugas at paglilinis ng kamay upang makaiwas sa iba't ibang karamdaman. Basain ng tubig ang mga kamay at sabunin. Unang sabunin ang mga palad at ang likod ng mga kamay. Kuskusin na maigi ang pagitan ng mga daliri at maging ang mga kuko. Isunod ang pagitan ng mga hinlalaki at kuskusin ng paikot ang mga dulo ng mga daliri sa magkabilang palad. Banlawang mabuti ang mga kamay sa malinis na tubig at patuyuin ang mga kamay gamit ang single-use towel o air dryer. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
The Department of Health or DOH says media workers may be tested for COVID-19 every 3 months. DOH Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergara said mass media is included in the group of economic priority workers in high-priority sectors with high interaction and exposure to the public and are living or working in special concern areas. Testing costs will be covered by PhilHealth or reimbursed by private insurance coverage. Vergara also clarified that the new guidelines state that rapid point-of-care antibody-based test kits cannot be used to rule out COVID-19 and must still be used with RT-PCR. RT-PCR has longer waiting time, while the rapid antibody test yields faster test results. A positive rapid test result may require a confirmatory PCR-based test afterwards. At least 83 members of the DUMAGAT tribe on Thursday condemned the atrocities of the Communist Party of the Philippines New People's Army and its political wing, the National Democratic Front. The DUMAGAT returnees who came from Sitio Inuman, Barangay San Lorenzo, Norsagaray, Bulacan, formally withdrew their support from the ganap na samahang Basing Masa and pledged their loyalty to the government. The tribesmen took their oath of allegiance to the government during a peace summit held at the Victory Church in Barangay Sumapangbata, Malolos, Bulacan. Josephine de Mesa, Barangay Chair of San Lorenzo in Norsagaray, said the Dumagats became aware of government programs through the local peace engagement activities of the Philippine Army. The Dumagat returnees would be eligible for the government's Enhanced Comprehensive Local Integration Program, or ECLIP. Meanwhile, authorities in Bohol exhumed on Thursday a decomposing body of a suspected member of the NPA in Barangay Rizal, Batuan Town. The body of a certain Ka Willie was recovered in Sitio Tubod, Soso by members of the Bohol Police and the 47th Infantry Katapatan Battalion. The body was discovered after a terrorist captured during the encounter between government troops and NPA members in Sevilla Town last June 26 revealed them to the burial site. Investigators are now checking if Ka Willie shot himself in August of 2019 out of desperation or was murdered. In our 4 news, the World Health Organization and UNICEF has warned of an alarming decline in the number of children receiving life-saving vaccines around the world due to disruptions caused by COVID-19 pandemic. The UN agencies called for immediate efforts to vaccinate children as new data show that vaccine coverage stalled at 85% for nearly a decade before the pandemic, with 14 million unvaccinated infants yearly. WHO Chief Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said vaccines could be delivered safely even during the pandemic, and the WHO is urging countries to ensure these life-saving programs continue. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, at least 30 measles vaccination campaigns were at risk of being canceled, which could result in further outbreaks in 2020 and beyond. A new survey, meanwhile, found that 3/4 of the 82 countries that responded reported COVID-19 related disruptions in their immunization programs as of May 2020. In sports, the Philippine Basketball Association meted a 100,000 peso fine to the Blackwater Elite for what a possible violation of quarantine protocols amid the COVID-19 pandemic. On Thursday, the league slapped the franchise with a sanction after its team owner, Joseldo C., said in an online interview that his team is back in practice. C, however, clarified that he saw 2 players doing some shoot-around with the ball boy and he thought it was indeed a practice session. Commissioner Willie Marcial also ordered the entire elite squad to undergo swab testing. In a related development, Marcial has also opened a probe regarding C's reaction to the sanctions, where he said he is putting the Elite's PBA franchise for sale. If C stands by his statement, Blackwater could be leaving the PBA just after 6 seasons. Meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions, or MICE, may now be held at 50% capacity in areas under modified general quarantine. Based on the guidelines for MICE operations dated July 14, physical events in areas under enhanced community quarantine, modified ECQ, and general community quarantine remain strictly prohibited. The rules on interzonal and intrazonal movement under the Interagency Task Force shall be observed. Persons below 21 and over 60 years of age are prohibited from participating in any MICE events, even under MGCQ. In releasing the new normal guidelines, Tourism Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat underscored the sector's role in the eventual recovery of the tourism industry in the Philippines. Romulo Puyat also signed on July 14th the health and safety guidelines governing the operations of MICE organizers and venues or facilities. Under the said guidelines, MICE organizers are required to formulate emergency preparedness plan to prevent the spread of infection at any MICE event. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. The Philippines allows the entry of foreigners with long-term visas starting August. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana offers to have AFP augment hospital treating COVID-19 patients. Malacanang tells several U.S. lawmakers not to interfere with the country's matters amid the passage of the anti-terror law. And DOH says media workers may be tested for COVID-19 every 3 months. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check out more news content, visit our webpage or head on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo. Good day and stay safe, everyone. Happy weekend to all.